if you would have came out right now from high school, how much different do you think your life would have been with NIL as part of the conversation?
Man, yeah, that's a great question. I try not to spend too much time thinking about it. It would be different.
Me
It would
too.
be,
Yeah.
uh, you know, my peak marketability was during my time at Michigan, and there was a lot of butt jerseys and butt autographs and butt
Yeah.
memorabilia, and I didn't get a dime off of any of that. So, man, I'll tell you what, I think back though, like I'm glad it's this way because I had like a run in with compliance like my senior year where
Yeah.
my freshman year I used to cut my own hair in the dorm. I would just like buzz my own hair. And then by my senior year, I made friends with a guy. His nephew was serving in the military, big Michigan fan. And I sent him a jersey and there was like no agreement. So like a few months later, he gave me a free haircut, and all of a sudden, like the compliance was like investigating me and wanted to suspend me for like half my senior season. And I just look back at that time, and I remember the conversations I was having that were just so illogical. It was like, okay, so you got a free haircut. So where do you draw the line? Who's to say you can't get a free car from your friend? And I'm like, do you hear yourself? Like a free haircut. Find me a friend that's handing
Yeah.
out free cars. I don't know a single friend and anyone in my life handing out free cars. Like that's where we were. That's us, talking about we can give bagels, but not peanut butter or jelly or cream cheese,
Insane.
So for some of the faults we have in the current game, I'm so thankful that these guys are finally able to capitalize because my goodness, as well as anybody, it's big business. And it's right that this money is being shared with the players that are ultimately driving the product.
Yeah, it's really crazy how with the NCAA, how dated and bureaucratic that organization was for the sport, and now we're seeing that the conferences themselves are now going to be the ones overseeing enforcement and the governing of the actual NIL revenue sharing, making sure the rules are followed. Because to be frank, the NCAA can't handle it.
Yeah.
There would be no enforcement. So I think it's a good thing that this is now happening, and we've seen just like even what I went through at Arizona State when we got investigated there with the NCAA. Jake, that investigation. I had left Arizona State, gone through 2 years in college football media before they ended the Arizona State investigation.
Yeah.
Took 3.5 years, and
Yeah.
it's just a crazy organization.
Well, I think, the biggest the big like pain point is the hypocrisy and the disconnect in how the rules get enforced. And that I think that's the biggest thing because we say we have this dream of like a perfectly fair and competitive balanced college football landscape, but that wasn't the case when we were being recruited.
Mm-hmm.
There was NIL going on before NIL was
No
legal,
doubt.
but the
Yeah.
enforcement of that was not fair or justified.
Yeah.
And I'm real curious, man, because you bring up a point about the NCAA's inability to enforce this. And the big reason is I think they're just scared to death of getting sued because they have been getting sued and they're basically paralyzed. They can't move forward because they're going to get sued. And it's going to be brought to high court. And I put myself in their shoes. I just try to do this as a thought experiment. I don't know what they can do, seriously. And it seems like the
Yeah.
only path forward is, and tell me if you agree with this, we need like the players at some level to sit down and get ahead of this. And the players almost have to propose a CBA to say, here's what it needs to be, because otherwise the NCAA can't be the first to bring this because they will just simply get sued.
Yeah, there's some organizations. One of them, the premier one is athletes.org. Jim Cavall have started kind of the first ever players union. It was interesting. I was at the college football national championship weekend. I think you were there too. Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
We had dinner when we were there.
Yep.
And all the conferences are meeting about the future of college football. There's the SEC meeting, the Big Ten has their meeting, the ACC has their meeting. All the school presidents have their meeting. Everyone's meeting about the future of college football, but who doesn't have a seat at the table? The
Yeah.
players, the most important piece of the entire pie. And at that weekend of the college football national championship, athletes.org actually had the kind of first ever players meeting, players only college football meeting. And it's very preliminary. Obviously, what's the impact it'll have? I think it will have one in the future. But the fact that there is no collective bargaining for the players yet, like that's the reason that the NFL has the NFLPA, as you were part of, because they need a seat at the table to be part. Like, how many games do college football players want to be able to play? The season keeps getting longer and longer with spring football. So, at what point does that go to OTAs and the players deserve a seat at the table? The thing that I think is so unique, or just the piece that's missing in college sports right now, is everyone refuses to use the dirty, dirty word of employee.
Yeah.
And it's funny, if you talk to administrators at dinner with no cameras, they all acknowledge it.
Yeah.
All the coaches, they're like, listen, the players need to be employees. That's what they are. They're employees. But everyone's deathly afraid to say it publicly because they don't want to get sued, to your point,
Right.
Jake.
Right.
Because once they open that can of worms, all the former players can sue them because they should have been employees and they weren't. So it's like everyone's dancing around this topic of the players, college football. That's the world we live in. But college basketball and all, they're employees and they get paid like employees. They're now with revenue sharing, the performance, you get paid for your performance, all that kind of stuff. And that's an employee structure, and everyone refuses to say that word.
We were, I mean, let's be honest. I certainly felt like an employee,
Yeah.
an unpaid employee, because they like to use the word student athlete, but I always found it ironic. Athlete came first because I wasn't allowed to take classes from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. in any of the major semesters, which
Yeah.
eliminated like half the key, the good,
Mm.
um, uh, degrees that you could pursue. So that's tell me if you agree with this though. It seems to me that if you asked most of the players, most of the coaches, most of the leadership across all conferences, I'd imagine like people agree on 80% of what they want the future to look like.
Mm.
So it's that fear of being sued that's holding us back. But I feel like we have most of the foundation agreed upon right
Yeah,
now to
no
move
doubt. And
forward.
I think what everyone wants is just a level playing field. The coaches are cool with the players getting paid. Everyone's cool with it.
Yeah.
It's just the difference in state laws, the difference in what everyone's allowed to do, how much can the school be involved, and I'm hopeful that we'll get there with revenue sharing.